Spark Books here. Today, I'm going to explain the book, Say What You Mean, by Oren Sofer. Take care, enjoy the book, and have a nice day. Say What You Mean 2018 is a guide to meaningful and productive communication. It shows how you can leave old, unhelpful habits behind and develop the skills to speak your mind in a clear and authentic way. It also teaches some simple practices to make your conversations more effective and satisfying. Key idea number 1. Awareness creates understanding in successful communication. Have you spoken to someone who didn't hear you? Have you tried talking to a friend who is on his phone or a partner who is watching TV? If so, you know that even though you're speaking the same language, it's like you're not there. Presence may be developed with practice and a few simple rules. In such cases, contact is impossible. Awareness creates understanding in successful communication. Though evident, we rarely consider why we communicate. Answer: understanding. All conversation seeks understanding. Awareness is needed for communication to result in comprehension. Communication awareness means what? It requires presence. Presence is being physically aware of and sensing all aspects of yourself. It's being aware of how your emotions and thoughts affect your body. Most people may be present for a moment by focusing on their feelings and experiences. Maintaining attentiveness, especially during a discussion, is harder. Good reasons. For one thing, it takes time and effort to break old communication habits like yelling when we don't feel heard or giving the silent treatment. Even when we know these counterproductive strategies are futile, replacing them with life-enhancing ones might be difficult. Presence may be developed with practice and a few simple rules. Key idea number 2. Effective communication starts with presence. Consider your last sunset, swim, or intimate encounter with a pal. These beautiful, emotional experiences make us totally aware and present. It's their wealth. Thus, you can better recognize and reflect on tension and annoyance. Being conscious of those emotions lets you choose how to react. You can avoid unwanted conflicts by thinking before you act. Presence has other benefits. Presence is always with us. It builds actual connection and helps us communicate well. Effective communication requires presence. How do we make discussions present? First, presence is consciousness. It starts with observing without judgment or reaction. Start by reflecting on what you know about being present. Consider what connects you and what distracts you. Slowing down, listening to your favorite music, and spending time with friends may make you more conscious of the world and yourself. However, hunger, fatigue, and worry tend to distract us. That happens when you drop things in a hurry or snap at someone in exasperation. Losing presence, and most importantly, communication, hurts our productivity. Once you know what keeps you disconnected, you may notice it in your daily life and fix it. Most importantly, presence is being honest with yourself. That doesn't mean blindly accepting what's happening or yelling everything we think. It means accepting the truth. Thus, you can better recognize and reflect on tension and annoyance. Being conscious of those emotions lets you choose how to react. You can avoid unwanted conflicts by thinking before you act. Key idea number 3. Meaningful communication requires conscious speech and listening. A meditation teacher invited a group of prisoners to add up their time in prison. It was over 100 years. He then asked, "How long did it take you to decide to commit the offense that got you here?" The total was under 2 minutes, right? Most impulses are not criminal, but that important delay between a desire and the resulting action is useful for more than just avoiding jail time. Reflective pauses enhance dialogue. Meaningful communication requires conscious speech and listening. When you're present, every moment is a chance to speak or listen. This insight can make or break a conversation with friends or coworkers. Choice points when and when to listen or speak are essential to meaningful interactions. What are conversational choice points? With some practice, understanding your speaking style is the first step to self-discovery. Start by choosing a confidant. You'll feel more comfortable chatting to that person. Watch when you talk in this dialogue. If you start a monologue without meaning to, pause and let the other person join in. You may also feel pressured to speak at times and hesitant to speak at others. As the conversation progresses, notice how it feels to actively choose to speak rather than just starting a topic. Exploring your habits and patterns will lead to more real expression. Communication is fantastic because you can do it your way. Being aware of when to speak and listen can help you have fascinating conversations that make talking to people so much fun. Key idea number 4, recognize and avoid blame-shifting conflict patterns. Ever lived with a slob? Imagine spending hours cleaning the kitchen only to find a new pile of dishes in the sink. You may question aloud why your housemate is such a slob. Third, passivity. That's conflict-free. It's when we give up before starting, agreeing to what others desire, ignoring our needs, and not expressing our views. Passive aggression concludes. Indirect conflict. It's when a sharp, hostile comment is hidden beneath a seemingly innocent or quiet rejoinder. This conflict style is active, but it's not obvious. Example, washing all the dishes except your housemates to send a message. Do you call your housemate a clean freak and say, "Why can't you just relax?" If you stand back, you'll see that no matter your side, your reflection on the conflict will often focus on the other person's mistakes. When things don't go our way, we blame others and don't take responsibility. Recognize your ineffective conflict styles and avoid blaming others. Blaming worsens conflicts when we react without thinking. After all, criticizing you won't change your conduct. You'll get defensive. We all have some bad conflict resolution habits. The good news is that we can recognize and then replace these patterns with ones that led to more fruitful talks. For confrontation styles are harmful, try to relate to one. First, conflict avoidance. It's when you avoid disagreement by shifting the subject or ignoring it. Competition follows. That's when we forcibly demand what we want without considering others' views. This includes shouting, demanding, and threatening. Third, passivity. That's conflict-free. It's when we give up before starting, agreeing to what others desire, ignoring our needs, and not expressing our views. Passive aggression concludes. Indirect conflict. It's when a sharp, hostile comment is hidden beneath a seemingly innocent or quiet rejoinder. This conflict style is active, but it's not obvious. Example, washing all the dishes except your housemates to send a message. Key idea number 5, conversation is dominated by intention. Though disagreements might cause communication issues, they aren't always harmful. Working through a major conflict with a partner or acquaintance can deepen connection. How's that? Answer, curiosity and care. Curiosity. Learning and realizing what we don't know frequently causes this feeling. If you're curious about something in a conversation or email, ask yourself, what matters to me or the other person in this situation? And what can I learn from this? This can cause a gradual shift from leaping to conclusions to wanting to know more. That will improve your communication. Everyone responds better to curiosity than accusations. Now care. This is goodwill and attentiveness. You assume the other person has something valuable to share. You commit to respecting his needs once you recognize him as a valuable human. Diversity enriches life. They help us bond. How can we ensure that our disputes yield fresh insights rather than conflict? Intention. The point, conversation is dominated by intention. Communication is about intention. Instead of blaming others, we may connect with others if we start with the proper intention. This means what? Consider your perspective. You avoid the bad and keep the good, right? It's natural. Our mind evaluates everything, opposes negative experiences, and prolongs favorable ones. When it fails, you feel furious at yourself or others. Have you considered how much energy chasing pleasure and avoiding suffering requires? Trying to manage our experience, especially when these things are out of our control, like another person's actions, can be unpleasant and draining. It's possible. We can understand rather than judge and control our experiences. That's changing our intentions. How's that? Answer, curiosity and care. Curiosity. Learning and realizing what we don't know frequently causes this feeling. If you're curious about something in a conversation or email, ask yourself, what matters to me or the other person in this situation? And what can I learn from this? This can cause a gradual shift from leaping to conclusions to wanting to know more. That will improve your communication. Everyone responds better to curiosity than accusations. Now care. This is goodwill and attentiveness. You assume the other person has something valuable to share. You commit to respecting his needs once you recognize him as a valuable human. Key idea number 6, listening maintains conversation. You're ignoring me. Let's demonstrate how reflection works. Take a typical pair fight. I'm so sick of being the only one who ever accomplishes anything around here. one would exclaim. If that's directed at you, you might be inclined to immediately defend yourself by saying, "What about those 5 loads of laundry I did last week?" Instead, mirror your partner's emotions. Say, "Wow, you're really fed up, aren't you?" The change immediately starts a more productive discourse about this or other relationship problems. It's okay if reflecting this way seems awkward. Tool. Sincerity is key because when people feel heard, they listen. That maintains relationships. Ever heard or used those words in a heated argument? Most folks say yes. We've all had frustrating conversations where our message doesn't get across. Both sides argue, yet none seems to grasp or accept the other's perspective. We could be speaking different languages. That indicates a connection breakdown. The point: listening maintains conversation. Someone who says we're not listening frequently doesn't feel heard or understood. It often requires empathy. How do you listen? Reflection is a simple tool. It confirms that what you heard is what the other person said. To accomplish it, ask a question or paraphrase her. That allows your partner to confirm. This communication method conveys the message and creates empathy, which can make the difference between a good talk and a conflict. Let's demonstrate how reflection works. Take a typical pair fight. "I'm so sick of being the only one who ever accomplishes anything around here," one would exclaim. If that's directed at you, you might be inclined to immediately defend yourself by saying, "What about those 5 loads of laundry I did last week?" Instead, mirror your partner's emotions. Say, "Wow, you're really fed up, aren't you?" The change immediately starts a more productive discourse about this or other relationship problems. It's okay if reflecting this way seems awkward. Tool. Sincerity is key because when people feel heard, they listen. That maintains relationships. Key idea number 7, communication requires understanding our wants. Imagine if you could always hear someone's true concerns underneath their words and behavior. Imagine constantly knowing what mattered to you. Harmony with yourself and others can be achieved. Recognizing your values and needs and those of others makes it possible in daily life. Our needs guide all our behaviors. They matter most to us and drive our desires. Understanding our wants makes us more receptive to others. Understanding others' needs gives us additional chances to connect. The point: communication requires understanding our wants. Humans need food, shelter, creativity, and fulfillment. We need family, community, and respect and trust. All needs matter, regardless of complexity. However, our tactics for addressing needs frequently show themselves in our daily encounters. A strategy is a precise technique to meet a need, sometimes stated as a desire, especially from another person. "I need you to listen right now" is a strategy. It may require comprehension. I may require respect if I complain about you being late every time we meet. We fight over how we convey our needs. Recognizing strategy needs avoids conflict. You wish to travel with your partner and a bunch of pals. It's a nice concept, however your sweetheart may prefer a romantic getaway. In this case, focusing entirely on what each of you wants may lead to a huge disagreement regarding the trip and staying home. However, if you step back and examine this example's techniques, you may find that you're both trying to meet the same need for connection and belonging in different ways. Once you understand why you want what you want, you can stop competing and work together to find a win-win solution. Key idea number 8, emotions indicate needs. What would you do if your smoke alarm went off now? Would you keep doing what you were doing, expecting it would go away, or would you check for a fire? More awareness of your emotions means more awareness of how you interact in conversations. We recognize the beeping sound's call to action, but internal impulses can be tougher to discern. Every emotion sends a message. We need to decipher our emotions like we do the alarm. The point: emotions indicate needs. Most cultures teach people that emotions are irrational, dangerous, or scary and associated with weakness or manipulation. Thus, as children, we learn to repress and ignore our emotions. How often have you heard "boys don't cry" or "good girls don't get angry"? Definitely once. Emotions serve a purpose. They are the major way our body and mind communicate our requirements. Satisfied needs make us happy. If not, rage and grief take over. When ignored, they can harm us. For instance, rage might make us act impulsively and hurt our relationships. We may bottle things up out of fear of being overwhelmed. Unacknowledged emotions can sometimes injure us and hinder dialogue. Our body language, voice, expressions, and words will still reflect them. These expressions reveal our emotions. Fake smiles and quiet discontent will be recognized and may turn others against us. Emotional agility is managing emotions thoughtfully. This requires naming your feelings, finding strategies to balance them, and expressing them without judgment or blame. More awareness of your emotions means more awareness of how you interact in conversations. Key idea number 9. Raising a difficult problem requires observation without judgment. Remember the blame game discussion? Blame feeds on judgments and interpretations. Your acquaintance never follows through, your coworker is chaotic, your relationship is messy, etc. Your judgment will be challenged if the other person disagrees. A screaming battle ensues. How can we express ourselves without hurting others or creating a fight? Starting with facts is the key to starting the dialogue. Raising a difficult matter requires observation and non-judgment. We all agree that successful communication starts with listening. We often have something to say too. We may also need to discuss sensitive topics. Finding common ground early on is crucial. Start with an observation, an impartial, concrete description of the circumstance without judgment. However, separating observations from subjective judgments might be difficult. If this incident were videotaped, what would the camera capture? Is a brief test. You're frightened and irritated because your boyfriend ignored you last night after work. Is ignoring filmable? Is one person passing another and ignoring? Consider whether your statement will make people defensive. You want to connect, not alienate. How can you express yourself neutrally? When you ignored me, may provoke. When I saw you come in and go past me, is a neutral start. Turning judgments into observations will show you that every circumstance has multiple interpretations. That alone can open us up to hearing others. Key idea number 10. Asking is about meeting a need. Can you ask for aid when you need it? You're not alone. Many of us would rather bear a big load alone than face the fear and discomfort of reaching out. Understandable. We want to let others say no and not burden them. Requests with these 3 traits are clearer. Requests should be positive. Thus, state your desires, not your disapprovals. Second, be specific. You must request something specific and achievable. Finally, adapt, not an ultimatum, just a recommendation. Our intentions are good considering others' needs is fantastic. However, we neglect ourselves. The point, asking is about meeting a need. Requesting something acknowledges our dependency on others, making it challenging. We may feel vulnerable. It risks rejection and disappointment. However, giving and receiving are natural instincts. Think about the last time you assisted a friend or someone held the door for you out of kindness, not obligation, right? Asking for what we need can make all our wants about giving and getting. Our demands are often unmet since no one knows what we desire. Requests inform others of your needs and the actions you want them to take. Remember strategies. Requests are great for satisfying needs. How can you request something? Clarity answers. Knowing what you want and why makes it easier to achieve. Requests with these 3 traits are clearer. Requests should be positive. Thus, state your desires, not your disapprovals. Second, be specific. You must request something specific and achievable. Finally, adapt, not an ultimatum, just a recommendation. Key idea number 11. If you listen, dialogue flows. Danced all night. You've experienced wonderful dialogue. Like dancing, the steps take time to learn, but it's amazing when you're effortlessly spinning with a partner. Track who's in the spotlight, who has the floor, and how does it change hands. You can help everyone say what they need by being mindful of those shifts. Conversation begins then. Now that you know the steps, let's put them together. The point, if you listen, dialogue flows. Conversations have rhythms like dance. Conversations have 3 key sections. We can speak, listen, or relax and take it all in. The dance is fundamentals. These guidelines can help them go smoothly. First, framing. Setup matters. Starting with a commonality is crucial. That fosters cooperation rather than competition. Discuss your partner's unpleasant statement. Start with common ground rather than the most unpleasant part. I felt so wounded when you branded me an egoist. Ask her about yesterday's chat and how you might better understand each other's needs. After a good start, monitor your communication. Tracking helps. It requires monitoring your conversation's procedure and content. First, observe your dialogue. Are you trying to fix a logistical issue or your relationship? Your partner called you an egoist for not attending her work party. It's crucial to determine if it's a scheduling conflict or a deeper relationship issue like her desire for assistance. Track who's in the spotlight, who has the floor, and how does it change hands. You can help everyone say what they need by being mindful of those shifts. Conversation begins then. Luckily, anyone can learn to communicate. Presence, aware speech, deep listening, and attention to needs and emotions are the keys. We can practice meaningful and effective discussions when we sincerely want to connect.
To view more content like this, subscribe. Don't forget to like and turn on notifications. The channel really benefits from it. I appreciate you being here.